my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 Yeah. I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. All light. Yeah. All light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Yeah. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Welcome, welcome, welcome this morning to Rebirth Sunday. My sisters, my colleagues, my friends, everyone who joins us, who slides in and slides out. Welcome this morning to Rebirth Sunday, where I am your host, LaTanya Taylor, the Rev Coach, affectionately known as the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, and Passion. And you, my beloved, are my co-host. And so I want to prepare the way so that we can share in this hour of power together, and we can lift each other and begin to continue to shift everything, to continue to transmute and rise to the occasion of this season. So we know now that here in this space, I think if you've been with me for any amount of time, one of the things that is helpful for us coming together, because you may not have time to read, and even if you see it on social media, to understand what you're reading and that type of thing. So this week, we had another shift, and we've been talking and working the Shift Everything Challenge, and we've had another shift where Venus went direct. Venus has been in retrograde for several months, which means that people have been evaluating all of their relationships. Even exes may have returned, conversations with yourself about why relationships didn't work, all of them, whether they be romantic relationships, friendships. I taught a piece on sisterhood and how, when really you can have a heartbreak just when there's a breakdown between you and your girlfriend, or you and somebody that you consider your sister. That can cause a major heartbreak, because oftentimes this is who we share our secrets with, and this is who we have expectations for, that they'll be there. You know, you talk about your future together just like you would in a love relationship. And so now that it has gone direct, that means that the flow should return. In fact, because it's direct, if you did your work while it was in retrograde, then that means that you will attract. A lot of times people who have done their work, freed themselves, cleared themselves, did the forgiveness work, rituals, whatever the case may be, when Venus goes direct, it amplifies your ability to attract love, harmony, peace. And so remember, when something goes direct, it doesn't just mean instantaneously. It means that there's a process of moving forward whenever you hear that term. And so now, as Venus went direct, Mercury went into retrograde until about the 7th of December. So that means now our communication is being affected by this particular Mercury retrograde. At the same time, we're still in Scorpio. The sun is still in Scorpio. The moon is, Mars is in Pisces, and then there's some other planets hanging out with Pisces. For the next few weeks, we're in a season of rest, deep rest, not deep rest in terms of depression, but whereas this is a good time to rest, to sleep. Pisces energy is a dreamy energy, and we're in water right now. There's a lot of water in the atmosphere. In other words, influencing even the fire signs. We've also moved, with the moon moved into Sagittarius, which is a fiery, quick-moving energy, right? It's a lot of energy. People, those of you who are Sagittarians, have a hard time being still, holding your peace, likes adventure, even if it's the adventure of intellectual prowess. So I'm not here to give you a astrological read. I'm here to share with you evidence that everything is shifting for those who have chosen to shift everything. And because of everything is shifting, and because November is an optimal time to pay attention to those dates that I posted, it means that we're going in and out of change, in and out of energy, shifting. 1 minute it's up, the next minute is in, or that, not necessarily down, but I should say out, external, and then it's in, and then it shifts, and then we're moving backwards, and then we're moving forwards, and then we're diving in deep, and so things are shifting all around us right now. And it's important this morning. I want to be able to support those of you who are participating in the Shift Everything Challenge. So we're going to cheat a little bit today, and I'm really focusing on those who are not just posting, but actually participating in the Shift Everything Challenge. Because, of course, I noticed a little bit of a pattern for those of us we're good at looking at the moment everything shifted. We're good at being able to give the lesson, to pay it forward. But where I noticed that we're getting stuck is in the challenge part. And I want to challenge you and everyone today under this teaching of transmutation, because transmutation does require something of you. And mainly the requirement, number one, is the choice to change. Sometimes we will go through change, changing the form from one thing to the next because of life and because of a period or a process that changes us over time. You know, when a child goes off to college, she doesn't or he doesn't just change instantly, but by that first year of college, the child that you sent away comes back quite different than the child that you sent, because there's a rites of passage process that we cannot just talk about, we have to be about. And so even if you prepare your child when they go off to college, there's some things they're going to have to walk through, probably just like the first day of school. The first day of school, your mother can prepare you and hang out with you as long as they can, but then there's some point they are going to have to leave. And it's true even when we look at the work that we're doing together here in this space is there's times when you come into transformation, it's your first day of school. I don't care how many books you've been reading. I don't care how much inspiration you've been watching and listening to, how many churches you've gone to. There's a point in the process where you're going to have to do something. And so that's the number two. Everyone will meet a crossroads when you look at the moment everything shifted for you. Those of you who've already shared and those of you who are getting ready to share for the next 7 days, I want you to look at deeper this. Now let's go deeper. I don't want you to just give people stuff to think about, because with us, yes, we think far too much. I want you to dive deeper. I want everybody, even on this call, to think about the moment that everything shifted. Remember, everybody in this challenge is sharing under a theme of something that in their life, whether it be employment, love, death, divorce, challenging your mindset, that type of thing. Everybody has been sharing in that realm right now. But the moment that everything shifted, something was required of thee. And I'm asking you this morning, let's practice together. I want you to think this morning about the moment that everything shifted. And you may have had many moments that everything shifted. What was required of you in that moment to the next? In the first moment, it may have been acceptance. In the second moment, it may have been getting out of shock and making another choice. In the moment everything shifted, something else was required of you. What was it? What was it? I want you to think about that, because sometimes we forget what was required of us, one, so that we can continue to do it. Two, so that we can be aware of it, because all the time we don't have the positive response. Sometimes the moment that shifted everything was born out of your negative response. In other words, those who have been doing something for a long period of time, such as fighting and fleeing or shutting down, attacking, going away, then oftentimes that will be your first response. But it's the second response or the third response that may have been the actual shift, not necessarily the first one. And here I want to share with you from the principle of surrender. For some reason, Spirit led me to one day. My soul just opened up again this morning, where Young says in here, it is dangerous to believe that once you get on a spiritual path, you will be able to see everything that everyone does in a spiritual light. It is foolish to believe that you will always be able to bless your enemy and think good thoughts about people regardless of what they do. You will not always have the presence of mind to rub your head with crystals, repeat your affirmations, or pray for the good of someone who has angered you. When you can do, however, when rage, fear, or any other negative emotion engulfs your mind and being, number one, and so these are some inside steps right here just to consider in terms of surrender. Admit what you feel. Some of you have been doing that in the reflection, in the gratitude space. The gratitude space is the moment everything shifted, and you're sharing what you're grateful for. But sometimes we have to be honest that we get to look at whether we're grateful for the anger, grateful for the depression, grateful for the breakdown, grateful for the breakup, grateful for being called out, grateful for being called on. Because you see, when I shared as a model, the moment everything shifted for me that day on that job, there was something required of me. I had a choice point. I was at that crossroads that I gave in point number 2. Is at that crossroad is where you have to make a choice. I'm going to talk a lot about choice today. It's your secret weapon going forward in being able to shift everything. If you're listening, Dana, I want to make sure I bookmark this particular teaching so that we can get back to it, because I do want it to be really helpful for even if you're just coming on call for the first time. Youngel says, admit what you feel. Number 2, feel it, and then give it up. I want to say this again. Feel it, and then give it up. You must surrender before you engage the influence of the negative. The issue is not that you experience the emotion. The issue is, what do you do in response to the emotion? When you are on a spiritual journey, surrender is what you must do. And number 3, there is a challenge in surrender. Even when we talk about shifting everything, the third point that I want to make to you today is the ingredient of surrender. You know, there's a part of surrender that seems intangible, unmeasurable, and it is, because there's this point where you are literally going to have to give up whatever the fight. Give up the thought, give up the smart mouth, give up the responding the normal way, or the fleeing or the shutting down, and try something else on. That's surrender. She gives the example of how she had to surrender in the process of buying a home. And then she talks about surrender, and surrender allows us to face the thing that we fear before it becomes a reality. The fear of being wrong, the fear of losing control, the fear of being found out. And most of the time, the thing we fear has absolutely no power, yet we brace ourselves for the worst possibility. In that defensive posture, we keep our minds fixed on what could or might have happened. The fear of facing the imaginary negative outcome is what keeps us paralyzed. I won't have enough money. If I invest in this, will I be able to pay my bills? If I purchase this particular thing, then I won't be able to pay for it. Or if I do this for my child and myself, then this could happen. Or if I make this decision, then my children won't have, or this type of thing. Surrender places us in an offensive position. In the offensive position. Many of us as women sometimes are not aware of how we live in the defensive position. Some of us are not aware that we are not really living in the offensive position. Oh my God. If y'all don't know, but I know we've been really Kaepernicking it in the last couple of years, but I really do like football. I kind of have had to get back into it, because if you know football, there's a defensive team and there's an offensive team. The job of the defensive team is different than the offensive team, and so and sometimes they work hand in hand, and there are certain players that they play both positions. Some players on a team will have an offensive and a defensive position, like your running back. Your running back may sometimes jump out there and protect the quarterback, because defense is about protection. You're protecting your team, and you're trying to redirect the energy actively. whereas the offensive is more of a receptive position where you are getting in position to receive. And that's why they talk about the wide receiver and special teams. I'm not, trust me, I'm not a football expert, but I do like it, and I am able to know the basics, right? And so many of us as women are not even aware of when we're playing defense, because sometimes defense has worked in this world because this world has been based now on more aggression. And so aggression is rewarded oftentimes financially or with fame and fortune and with rags to riches stories. And aggression has sometimes been the catalyst that shifted you out of the passive position if you've been in trauma or hurt. Passive position is the position of when you've been a child and you had to put up with certain things as a child. And the Bible says that when I was a child, I spoke as a child. And now that I'm grown up, I have to put away childish things. And so some of us are still positioning our response to life in the position of the child. But because we're doing it and we're rewarded from a successful place, people don't see the child that is still responding because it looks like the adult is being responsible. But you know that there's a part of you that's still been responding to the trauma in your life or the thing that you didn't have in your life. You know, that's why some people have wealth. They really are successful because they're driven by not being poor again. I was having a conversation with my girlfriend at a conference on business last week, and she said, I will never be as poor as I was living with my parents. She said, but when she talked about her life, she has no balance. When she talked about her life, there's aspects of herself she's still hiding and protecting. But on the outside, she looks extraordinary, beautiful, successful. And you would never, ever really look at her and know that she ever was poor because she exudes the wealth. And so it drives her. It drives her. I talked to other people. I used to be in network marketing, and the leader that we were assigned under our upline was from the streets, and she had a story of her mother was a drug dealer, so she knew how to get fast money. That she grew up around hustlers in a hustler mentality, and so when her mom stopped selling drugs and wanted to live clean, in her mind there was association with struggle outside of the hustle. Check this out now, because everybody doesn't come from this type of background, but you can find yourself, you can find your money story in your mother's story, in your daddy's story, in your household. How you handle money oftentimes is found in your household that you came out of. And so she said that, she remembers struggling, having to walk up these steps of this apartment, and she said she remembered walking into the apartment and the lights was off. And she said she remembered that they didn't have any food to eat. They couldn't cook the food, and having to open up canned goods and eat the canned goods out of the can and with no heat. And she said, and that was, she remembered making a decision. That was the moment she said, I will never, ever be this poor again. And so she brought that kind of hustle into her network marketing business after she stopped stripping, because she took that into becoming a stripper and doing some other things. Again, hustle was just a part of what she had to do. That was the world that she came from. So she was a stripper, and she was bad. She is built bad to the bone, baby, and always has been. And so not only did she look good, so she got used to having a certain relationship with being even in her relationships with even being able to hustle men for certain things, because she has the body, she had the mindset of the streets, so she had to have a certain type of relationship even with the men who came into her life. Everything was centered about, or in her world, about what you gonna do for me. And so when she came into this particular network marketing, multi-level marketing business, she had to deal with mindset now. She was around people who were reading books and listening to audios and waking up every morning and deliberately feeding themselves positive authorship and thoughts. And she said that was foreign to her. because she was ready to get to the money by any means necessary. And it was not easy being on her team because she had some really unhealthy habits in her terms of leadership. And so and my team happened to be at the very beginning of her transformation. You know, sometimes when people start off with you, you know, they can be your test subjects, unfortunately, just like your first child. Your first child was your trial and error. You were learning on the job. It's no different than your business. It's no different than your marriage. It's no different when you do anything for the first time. But do we give ourselves grace? Because then when you have the second, the third baby, the second, the third business, the second, the third husband, breakup, whatever, relationship, you start to learn something about yourself. You start to learn something about what not to react over, what not to have a breakdown over. If you are building up the ability to pay attention and to interrupt your pattern. So this is the same is true with anything. And so we were her first, and it wasn't easy. She triggered a lot of people because she attracted on my team. We were a very successful team before we met her. Check this out. We didn't meet her until later. She met us as we were moving, popping, using our success principles because we were already spiritual. Get this. She was becoming spiritual, but she had the success principles. We were already spiritual, but we didn't necessarily have all the success formulas. And so, but when you got to know your source, and she didn't adapt well because we were sensitive. Most of the people on our team were empathic in nature and just wasn't used to a certain way of being spoken to a certain way of just not caring about the person, but just the sale. Go get the sale by any means necessary. And see, you know, in the world of sales, there are people who use metaphysics in order to get what it is they want to get done. So when you hear certain success teachers, and salespeople, they may reference books that are spiritual, but check this out, they're not always in it for the depth of the spiritual work. So that's why you always have to consider the source. And some of these coaches have been trained in the sales and the marketing, but they have not been trained in terms of doing the deep soul work. I, on the other hand, have been trained on doing this deep soul work and have had to learn sales and marketing because I truly have been born to be a humanitarian, to really want to see people grow. But at some point I had to say, where do you continue to martyr yourself? Because the old model of ministry and service is just free, just give yourself away. And so there's a balance in everything, because if I had not been on this woman's team, I would not have been able to see that in me was this soft spot that needed to make a decision. I had to hit a crossroads. And here's the fourth and final point for those of you who are in the Shift Everything Challenge. Check this out. Choice. Today, I want to really emphasize to you as we go forward in the Shift Everything Challenge, even if you're just the one who's sharing in the comments. I want you, and those of you who are focusing this week, to focus on action, an actionable thing that you are calling forth in this challenge. Not fluff, not just telling the women, go think about this. For 7 days now, over 7 days, are we over 7 days? Yes. That we've been looking at what are the things to consider. Consider this. Think about this. What did you do after that moment that everything shifted? And what were the things that you had to do even after that first moment? Some of us in this space need to learn how to pray. I think I've done a teaching. I got to find it in the library of hundreds. Oh, yes, I did it. I did that teaching, actually, the Anatomy of Prayer. It's actually, I hope to get it up by before Black Friday. That's a powerful teaching, the Anatomy of Prayer, when I did the Power of the Peace series, I believe, last year. I'll make sure that I get that teaching up, especially if you're here for the first time. If I called on you in this space, if you've been coming here for a year, 2 years, can you pray an affirmative prayer? Or are you going to take us into begging, pleading, and moaning? That's what I'm talking about. What did you do? Did you learn how to pray? Did you pray? If you pray, what did you pray? Share that. When everything shifted, what was required of thee? What was the second thing that was required? See, for me, when I shared the story of the moment everything shifted for employment for me, the first thing I did was I made a video. I said yes without challenge. I was like, okay, I accept this. I accept this. And I had a lot of other thoughts, but in the car that day, I made the video. Oh, it's just so surreal to think I made that video, and literally, it was sat in private for months. My best friends couldn't even open the video because I didn't want anybody to see it on YouTube, so it was private, and then you can't share private videos, and it was a mess. Still learning the video thing. So then I already was doing Juicy Spirit. See, your gift really will make room for you. So I was already teaching the Pleasure Unplugged and moving into the 7 weeks of Juicy Spirit and just absolutely in my zone. I had to be pushed to a degree if I look at it. I have so much Taurus in my chart. Back to that chart again. Check this out. Remember, I'm making the natal chart readings available this month for 2 prices. One is an introductory price to your chart, and the other one is either a reminder, a refresher, or your first time getting your chart read. DM me if you want those charts, because I will not be doing them after the month of November. Even if you're traveling, you can reserve it now, pay for it now, and get the reading later. But I lost, Taurus. So because I didn't always know, even though I had been studying my chart again. Many of us think because we study something for one time, we know it, but I didn't realize you have to keep returning to it. And of course, the more I learned about astrology, the more I saw so much sitting right in front of my face about myself. One, that I struggled with, and two, that I realized I didn't have to, that it was a part of accepting. So knowing, for instance, that I had all this Taurus, see, there will be some of you who shifting everything will be a way of life. Sagittarians, Aries, any of the fire signs, Leo. Not a whole lot with Leo, but the fire signs tend to be a lot more impulsive and willing to shift it, willing to say it. Fire and air are very similar in their willingness to move, in their willingness to consider. The slower moving signs now then is water. Water can be fast, it can be slow, of course, as we know that. So water is that changeable element. No matter how you on the surface it can look like one thing, underneath can be another. There are waters like the Mississippi River that will look like it's a certain way on top, and underneath there are undercurrents. They say it's the undercurrents that drown you. So when you're dealing with a water sign, sometimes it's the undercurrents, y'all, that are water signs that are drowning you, that will drown other people. It's your undercurrents. It's not always the waves. And so, but some of you are wavy. You make waves, and you come in at the shore a certain way. There's some of you that are still waters. You run deep too. You're still, but you dive in. 1 minute you might be in knee deep. You take one step and woof, you in under your head. That's how you have to look at yourself and your emotions. And those of you who are earth signs, you all are the ones that it's hard to move, more positional. You everything. You don't take change well. You don't take to information. Earth signs just don't move easy, and sometimes your emotions don't move. They're not expressed easy, and so you can't look. This is why comparing yourself is an act of violence, because when you look at my shift, you got to look at some key ingredients like I'm giving today to see, okay, how am I going to apply this to my life? Because you may have to do a deeper inner work before you make your move, some of you. And so for 7 days, you got those kinds of references, what you need to think about, what you need to consider. But those of you who are deliberately on choice transmuting, here is what I want you to hear. I like to use Tommy. I like to use Dana. I like to talk about Denise. I like to talk about Monique and Ayana and some of the women who come through this process, not to be just your big sister, to become your auntie, your mother figure. I don't like assigning that to women. I don't even call y'all my daughters, even though energetically sometimes I am. And so, I don't want you all coming into this space and taking on even an identity. Yes, y'all have assigned me the identity of mother because, honestly, it's more of my spiritual anointing that you're calling forth when you call me mama. Mama is ministry. Mama is more. If you've worked with me, you know what I'm talking about. If you've been through consecration, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So I get that. So I'm talking two things here, because titles sometimes keep us in roles. But here's what I want you to consider, especially those of you who are in this rebirth community, whether you're just in Good Girl Slum Goddess or you are a juicy butterfly. I want you to hear something. Choice. I'm going to do this teaching for the alumni coming up in 2019, because choice, the power to transmute, the power to shift anything was through my master coach teaching me and training me on this thing called choice. Oh, my God, I could shout right now. Peace and blessings upon you, Master Coach Ron Davis. Peace and blessings upon you. Let me tell y'all something. My master coach was training and preparing me, and I didn't even know it. And he wasn't doing it in the regular programs. This is a hint to some of you. He was not doing it in the offering that everybody else had access to. I had coaching calls with him that would happen 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. We wouldn't be on the phone that long unless it was a real big issue. But 15, 20 minutes with this man, my head would be spinning, or I would be triggered because he's introducing concepts and challenging my choice muscle around how I thought, how I moved, the next move I was going to make, what was working, looking at what was working, what wasn't working, but teaching me, even till we talked about death. He prepared me for his death. I know that sounds deep. He prepared me for his death by teaching me about how to prepare for anybody's death. I ain't like that conversation. I don't want to hear it. I thought he was insensitive at first. I thought it was bullshit for a second. My dad had not died yet anyway when we first started having these conversations, ironically. And we will revisit another layer of his preparation. He taught me about this thing called marriage and relationships and how to see these things different all around choice. And those of you who stay with me in terms of the alumni community, you're going to learn something. But today I want to give you something that everyone can use, because the more advanced concepts are very hard to just accept unless you are getting the basics of transmutation, and that is choice. Choice is not something that is always because of something. Choice sometimes is an interruption just because. Yeah. Check this out. Sometimes when it's because of something, it's more of a decision than a choice. When it's because of something, you reach a crossroads where you're looking at this or that, and you weigh your pros and cons. That is, you split yourself between the pro and the con. That's what to decide means. In fact, to D anything is to divide it, but actually D actually means death. So to D anything means that you're going to have to kill one side in order that you can activate another, the pro or the con. And this is why many of us who are on the fence about things create chaos in our life. We don't see it. We create chaos because we're on the fence. And so we had made a decision. Sometimes we overthink things. But let me tell you about choice. Choice goes back to, if I told you what was required of thee, would you still say yes? See, yes is a choice that you make when you don't know what the pros and cons are. It is because of, it is just because, not because of. I choose to live at yes. I choose, and then there's a whole thing that he taught me on yes, of course. When you're in a sacred process, when you're learning from a master, when you decided to shift everything. See, he would throw things out at me, and I do this with my clients. And my response got to be yes, of course. Sometimes my energy was no, but my response is yes, of course. And if you try living at choice just because and not because of, you elevate your decisions to the choice. I hope somebody got that. Oh, God, I feel like I need to stop and start taking you off on mute just to check in, because I want to make sure you understand that. And how I first learned the choice lesson was our very first gathering. Never forget this. The very first gathering of the people who would be leaders. Come on, leaders in this circle. I gave the leaders it wasn't me. I have given leaders the exercise, and I haven't given this group this exercise, so you're going to get a precursor. If I were to ask you vanilla or chocolate, most of you would have a response based on your preferences. Well, I don't like chocolate, so I choose vanilla. Well, I don't like brown stuff, so I choose vanilla. I love me some chocolate, but it got to be this kind of, we go through all of that. And that is when I started to learn the difference because of and just because. Sometimes the people who did not like either and just chose one were more at choice than the people who made a decision. Come on now. If you started to respond to your life because of the choice that you made, you're going to have to make the choice as a lifestyle over and over and over and over again. See, I don't always I'm not always 100% before I get on these prayer calls. But my choice is yes, and my yes is not for you. My yes is for my ancestors and for my ministerial agreement with the divine. When I got ordained, one of the things they anointed was both my throat and my mouth, a minister of the spoken word. And one of the things I was given instructions how to be at choice. Oh my God. I was given herbs and baths and how to be at choice. And then when I came into ministry, I was still to a degree fighting. I wasn't at choice. I was scared of this anointing that I held in my belly because I knew it would be an interruption. Some of you who are looking to shift everything, yes, I'm asking you to look at moments that shifted everything, but remember, you're in the challenge to shift something more. So I invite you today to look at what was required of thee in those moments. I want you to share this morning what was required of thee. Now, even if you've already shared, if now hearing this, if there's something that you heard that blessed you, I'm taking the phones off mute. And so there's some of you who already have background noise that I would like to ask that you put your phone on mute. 571-8835. Put your phone on mute. If you have me on speaker, take me off speakerphone. It creates an echo. 301-300. Please put your phone on mute.
I am on mute. I was on mute already.
917. Can't be on mute if you're talking to me. 917-318. Please put your physical phone on mute.
First date, right?
Okay, somebody is on. I won't be able to open up. That was 917. That was your phone. Please put your physical phone on mute, 917, or you will not be able to speak because I've muted your line. Just in general, when you come on conference calls, beloved, just come on to the conference call with your physical phone on mute. Just do that. Take yourself off mute when you're getting ready to speak. That's it. Simple, easy peasy. Also, just as a general hygiene for conference calls and such audio, when you're on speaker, it creates an echo. Your phone operates different on speaker than it does on ear to ear. So everyone is off mute now. If there's something that you heard this morning that caused your belly to jump, that pulled you forward a bit, that even shifted you a bit, please take yourselves off mute now and share. And then I want you all who are here to really, even if you've already shared, what was the thing that shifted, what that you did, the action you took, and that's when you realize that everything has shifted. The lines are now open.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was sitting here stewing a little bit because I had taken some good juicy notes this morning and my whole pad just went away. So
Oh my!
It took me a minute to. Yeah, I'm stewing a little bit, but even that required me to shift. I know when my husband and I decided to release our marriage, and I had to sell my home. Except the little bit of money that came in from the sale of the home, start completely over, even in learning or relearning how to pay my bills, save money, pay for things for the kids, and just shift everything around money. One of the actions that was required of me was to look at my own surroundings and be grateful, show gratitude for what was right in front of me and what I was blessed with over the years and what I still had to provide to not only myself, but my children. And so my shift came when I really decided to get rid of, release, let go of, surrender those old things that I was holding on to that kept my day-to-day in routine. And what I mean by that was just the simple stuff. I changed out my dishes. I changed out my utensils. I changed out my cups. I changed out my tablecloths, my furniture, just some of the simple things that I used on a daily basis. And when I shifted even that into something that I desired that brought me bliss and happiness, everything else fell in line with a shift. My job began to shift. My car began to shift. My relationship with my children began to shift. So just starting with something small and simple that's right in front of you can make it's like the pebble in the pond. Just that small pebble can make several ripples in the atmosphere.
That's good. That's good right there. Now, did you put that in your post? The
no,
part
I did
about
not.
the dishes. If you could go back
yes,
and edit
dishes,
your post
yes.
and add those three things that you just mentioned, just go back and edit your post under the challenge part.
Yes, so
I have a surprise
challenge.
for
my
you all.
challenge, I did place. Yes, change the dishes. Change. Use your china. Use the crystal.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yes,
what
did.
I did.
You sure
so
did.
That was in my
you
challenge.
Did.
Yes.
Absolutely. You sure did. Thank you. If it's anything else that you're aware of, please go. This is for everybody. Thank you. That's good stuff, though. Any more? Did you have any more?
No, that was it.
Okay. Who's next?
Good morning. This is Sandy. How was all my sisters?
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you all. This morning when you were speaking on feel it and then give it up, I experienced that this morning. Me and my husband was laying there in the bed, and he said, he was telling me how his stomach was bothering him. And so he couldn't understand why. And I was like, and I told him why. I said, it's what you ate. And I said, you're eating these things, but you're not taking care of yourself like you should. And I'm always telling him how to take care of himself. And so he doesn't listen because he calls me. He says, she thinks she's a doctor. And in a sense, I have a lot of knowledge on a lot of things because I study a lot. And I use a lot of natural herbs, and I heal that way. And I try to get up. People don't understand that, and they don't listen to me, especially my family anyway. But anyway, he was morning when he said that to me, and I said to him, I said, you know what? He didn't listen, but I said, I'm going to fix you up a little herbs and spices to settle your stomach. And I didn't do it, but right away. But then I looked at him and I said, honey, you've got to take care of yourself because I need you. I can't do this by myself. And I've never said that before. I've felt it, but I never said it. And Spirit said to me, you need to release it and let him know how you feel. He turned and looked at me. He said, I'm going to do better. After I said that to him, instead of arguing with me and saying, you think you're a doctor and blah, blah, blah. He didn't do that this time. He said, I'm going to do better. I'm going to take care of myself. So when you said feel it and then give it up, that just rang a bell with me of what I did. And I need to do that more because I have not been doing that. I kind of keep it inside of me what I feel.
Oh, my goodness. That's good wisdom in this space for us in the feminine, because sometimes we're trying to control, and we call it help. We call it help. And then when people don't respond to our help, we get offended or worried. But what's really underneath is the need that you want him to live longer. And so that is what you went right to it. And so that's a shift. What is required of these sometimes is us to be vulnerable enough to say what's underneath the thing that we're trying to do. What is it underneath sometimes needs to be voiced in a way that is not directive, prescriptive, telling other people what to do, or just trying to cover over with all this damn positive language and just say what's really going on. Because God will meet you at your point of need, not necessarily to give you what you want, because we don't control life or death. And when you're an elder, you're more aware of your mortality than you are your life. And so and I know this because my mother is more aware in talking about death and preparations for death and not preparations to live. Because some of us, I challenge her to talk about preparations to live, hell. Because I'm like, why are we preparing to die? What are you preparing to live, people who are over 60, who are over 70?
Yeah.
Are you preparing to live, or are you preparing to die? Now, there's nothing wrong with preparing to die, because many of us who are black, be quite frankly, we don't have no damn plans in place for when we die, and we leave a mess. So it's nothing wrong with preparing to die. That's a challenge that could shift everything right now. If somebody started to look at your living will, somebody who's willing to have a conversation with your mother, your grandmother, your aunties, the people that you're responsible for, mama, daddy, y'all got something in place for me? What's going to happen when you die? Where do I go and look for your things? Oh, honey, that can shift everything.
Yeah.
Instead of walking around talking about, I don't want to talk about that. What? All of us got to go. I don't know where that came from, but my point is for Sandy is she went to the vulnerability and communicated it in a way that got her stubborn husband to pay attention.
Yes. Yeah. So that told me right there that sometimes I need to just be vulnerable and stop, holding back. Stop and release and let him know what I really feel about things. And I have been doing it more and more. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's good right there. Sometimes we just need to speak what's underneath, not all the talking we do. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, honey. All right, who's next?
Good morning.
Good day. How are you?
Sorry. Good rising. Happy. Hello. I was just sitting here thinking. I kept thinking, what would it be? But I think one of the greatest things for me was to realize there's no shame around my testimony. And rather than trying to tell people all these things, I just tell my life story. And there is always power in my life story. And so that was a shift for me, especially as I started to go through and understand what some of my hindrances were, my blockages were, and how I got to the other side. And not that that's totally like I don't have other things that I'm growing through, evolving in, but each time something happens, it's who I am. And that's the greatest testimony, and not just kind of talking at people. But
what did you do? What was required? What was something you had to do? An action.
Well, one of the things I ended up getting, I work with you, and I've worked with other women. I had to.
Okay. And when you worked with me, what did you do? What did you have to do? I want you to look at how sometimes, as a writer, you may think more about the story but what did you do when you worked with me? I could tell it. I could tell the shifts that you made. I could remind you of it. But this might help somebody.
Okay.
Because you didn't always have the money. You didn't always have, but you would always ask, can I enroll?
Okay.
Can I? Do you see? Do you know? But listen, I'm not trying to change your sharing. What I want you to see.
No. You make it sense. You make it sense. I'm open. Nope. You make it sense.
Okay.
Yes. No. I didn't always have the money. So.
I'm just saying for somebody else, and even for yourself to see, you went right till you did the work and all of that. But before you did the work, there was other work you had to do. Sometimes we didn't see. So what was that? You asked?
Well, the first thing is when I came in, I didn't really, and I was honest about, like, I didn't totally understand everything, but I knew I was supposed to be here, so I showed up. And then I started taking classes, and I didn't always have the money, and I would ask you so I got on the payment plan, and I would just, and sometimes even if I knew it wasn't going to come in on time, I would ask about that, like, or let you know. And then I would do the work. Sometimes it got hard. I even had to go to therapy once doing the work. I was just willing to do whatever it took because there was a period where I had to come out of my head, and that was a struggle for me. God, that was a struggle for me, but it was worth it because I learned to tap back into my emotions and my intuition. So that was part of what I had to do. But I think the biggest part was to make the choice and say yes. Like one year you talked about the yes, and it just dawned on me that the moment that I came in and said to you, I don't really understand what all this is about, but I'm here, and kept showing up, that was my yes in action. And my yes in action got me to a place that by the time I stopped working for you, it's like there are some times in your life, or at least in my life, where there was a time when I finished working for you and we did our consecration, that I left there knowing. I mean, that was not something I would ever have to wonder. I knew I would never be the same again. Absolutely nobody. It was not something I wondered about.
That's the end. That's the end. And that's good. I love that testimony. I love how you write about that testimony. Sometimes you gotta think about, what did I do? And trust that you did more than that. You know, and to think you're on the other side is good. But if I can get in this pocket, because you blessing somebody else, can I get in this pocket to
Girl,
break
you
down
can work
what
with me
I
all
know?
you want. Yes, go ahead. I'm open. I don't mind helping sisters and learning from my own experiences. So go ahead. What you need to tell me? What you need to help me pull out?
So one of the things is you did declare. You came in and you declared. I don't understand, and you would ask. You would ask questions. That's an action. You would be so surprised at people who are afraid to ask questions because they don't want to sound dumb, or they don't want to be the only ones that ask, especially smart Black women or women who are very accomplished. A lot of times they won't ask unless they've been rewarded for asking. So you would ask questions in open forums. Number 2, you would always say yes to the program or whatever, even if you didn't have the money. Like you were queen for that, and then number 3 is you kept your word. If you said you was gonna pay something, you did. If there was a struggle, you kept your word to yourself, not just to me, but to the decree you made when you first came in. Do you see how I'm breaking this down for you?
Yeah, you're about to make me cry, but yeah, I get you. And I like to say another thing is, too, there was times I had to show up feeling somewhat embarrassed, not because necessarily of what I was experiencing, but no, not embarrassed. That's not true. I would show up, but I had to deal with the self-talk in my head, because I was kind of one that in this class was set at the front of the class. And I was always, and sometimes I'll feel like, because those be the thoughts that come, that because I was committed to showing up for myself, but I wasn't trying to make any of the sisters feel less than. But sometimes that would be the self-talk that would come in my head. I had to deal with that stuff because all I knew is I came there to get what I came to get. And I didn't want to feel like the know-it-all and the one that kept writing everything. But I was just like, and it was out there because I wanted what I wanted, and I wanted to, by the time I was over with, I really wanted a difference. I grew up not showing up in my life. And I grew up going to college and got excellent grades. But what I can tell everybody is what I realized I learned to do was how to play the game. I knew how to take the test. But often when it was time to go to work and do things, I felt like I had not learned anything. I had felt like I had not learned anything because all I had done was learn. I was hiding. So I go in and I knew how to do this. I learned how to do all of that stuff. Had a magna cum laude in undergrad, grad, all this stuff, and then was not secure enough that I could even perform my duties when I got out because I had learned how to just stay behind, not really show up, but yet show up enough to pass. And I had said from this, when I realized that when I do my processes now, I'm showing up and I want to get it. I don't want to get there and just come out and cannot live this truth, and just pick over it like that. So for me, sometimes I would feel uncomfortable, and I had to deal with that uncomfortability because, like I said, if we was in school and you had us sitting in, I would be at the front of the class. I probably would be asking all the questions, not because I was trying to hinder anybody else, but because at this point I had to realize I'm saving my own life. I'm not trying to make nobody look little, but I knew what it was like, and I knew what I had done. And
that's where you connect with your teacher. When they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's how I learned what you just said. I had a woman who told me, "Come in here like you are trying to save your life." And every process I went through after that, I went in not worrying about none of that other bullshit, what they think. What you just dropped so many gems. I want to make sure that that's in your post, even if you have to edit it down. Don't add more to it, Tressa. Edit it down and put those 1, 2, 3s in your challenge. Not some of the things. Go back to your post and add a picture that inspires you. It could be of you or anything. If you can go back to your post and add those 1, 2, 3s that you were about to glaze over, but those 1, 2, 3s kept you in the process when it made a lot of people stop and quit. I'm telling y'all, you all are a different pedigree, and you're opening the way for other women just by your yes. I just can't emphasize to the juicy butterflies enough what you can't see that you've done and why you want to stay connected in this community where you were consecrated. Not to leave because what's going to happen is this is just where you come, and you know how when you go get a plate from grandma, it's different from when you eating out butter beans and cornbread out in the streets. But when you get your butter beans and cornbread from your grandmama, it's just different. All right.
Tanya, can I say one last thing, and I'll be really quick? And I just wanted to say, like you talked about, at the end result, because when you do your work at the end result, what I learned was I got definitely more in touch with myself, and I got definitely more in touch with my intuition, and that's something you got to learn to trust anyway. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else?
Good morning. This is Tommy.
Good morning.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. These nuggets that you have dropped this morning. And my shift is, for lack of a better word, I want to say cerebral, emotional. A lot. I remember that early in the morning, before the sun came up, and I found out that my mother had transitioned. The whole family was at my grandmother's house, and I remember so vividly. And when I discovered that my mother had made her transition, I was 10 years old, and what I did, the action that I took was so instantaneous. And I realized that had followed me. I went and found my aunt, my mother's sister, and I said, "Can I live with you?" I immediately went into survival mode, and she said yes. And I realized how survival, which is masculine, has followed me. It has followed me. And throughout time, I've had to shift from survival mode, that is doing, rather than just being and helping myself more effortlessly. So that was my shift.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I know we're over the time, but this is going to be the supplemental for those of you who are in the process, which you are here for a different level of commitment than a person that's just coming in to say, let me just go get a little inspiration. Some of you are committed to shifting. Some of you have something in your life you're looking to shift before January. And so this is tithes and offerings are certainly accepted. I do have some spirit has revealed a way how this even is going to be so powerful what you all are doing. So I do ask that you show up. Go back and edit if it's something that you said and put on there, edit it, put in parens, so we'll know, because the point is even in this process is to get the nuggets, because there's no accident that we're in the law of transmutation and shifting everything in this already highly charged year. I'm telling you, I've had so many shifts and miracles happen. Even right now, I'm supposed to be in New York the day after Thanksgiving. The tickets are ridiculous, right? I thought somebody had a buddy pass and was waiting only for that person to tell me, "Oh no, I can't get the buddy passes." And which now makes the prices that I was quoted just 3 days ago even more. Now I'm at a point in what I taught, which is surrender. I'm saying I'm giving it up right now. I could go and spend way too much money, and I've been relieved of that I didn't have to do it. Or I can hold it. I can conjure it to Juicy Butterflies, feminine knowers. I can still hold space that I really want this to happen, but if it doesn't happen, I'm going to be okay. I got options. I'm in a place of surrender finally, because I was trying to make it happen. Now I'm at, before I say no, it's not going to happen, that I'm holding a space for it to happen without my hands. Now I'm letting the universe handle it. That ought to bless somebody too. Anyone else want to share? Something you heard that opened you, blessed you? Talk to us. Made your belly jump? Is everybody that's on the call in the shift, that's everything challenged? Or no, I don't. What's going on with quiet? I'm checking in. Have you, if you're not even posting, have you commented on your sisters and good girls going out? Has it helped you? Reading certain things helped you? Because we're literally working this law of transmutation right now. All right. Well, we're going to move on to prayer. If you have anything in your laps, just take it out of your lap, uncross your legs, open your body, put yourself in the open position. And now your body is in agreement. But close your eyes. Isn't it funny that you have to close your eyes to open to new realities? So now in your mind's eye, even as you can, I know we call the names oftentimes, but in your mind's eye, I want you to see, if you have a picture of your grandmother or if spirit has given you an image of your mothers, your guardians, your angels, your guides, bring that image to your mind. And if you don't have an image, the nothingness is where we all came from. So it's not that you're not getting anything. You just may be tapped into the deeper place of the 0 point where we all originate from, the womb space, the cosmic womb. It's okay too. Call that forth in your mind's eye. Take a breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. In through your nose, out through your mouth. You can see more than one of your grandmothers, your aunts, your guides, your cosmic mentors. You can see them right here, right now. See, we don't always have to do it the same way. We can just make a choice to interrupt the pattern, even though consistency is good. Sometimes we get to be the change we want to see, just calling forth. Even if you can't see images and you just see their names in your mind's eye, let it scroll across the screen. Let the images come. Let the environment that they're in come. Let the smell of the food come. My grandmother's house had a special smell. There was always a sweet, always smell like rolls was baking in my grandmother's house. Just bring that image. I remember kissing my daddy all on his cheek and then his aftershave being on my nose. Ooh, I can thank you. Yeah. That thing puts you in touch with another thing. The word says, I look to the hills from whence cometh my help, and the response is, my help cometh from the Lord. I look to the hills, meaning to the high places in my mind. I got to elevate. To look at our ancestors is an elevation that you cannot get past. You can't get to the goddesses without getting to the ancestors. You can't get to the Orishas and to all of this high knowledge, sometimes prosperity even. You got to go through your lineage. Oh, yeah, we give thanks for them this morning. Now feel that in your body, the thanksgiving of being able to remember the smell. That even if you can't smell it, you remember there was one. Yeah. Mother, Father, God, Holy Spirit, all that is, we give thanks for the deep remembrance. This is a Mercury retrograde, and so it's telling us to go within, to get quieter, to lower our voices, to find the sweet place. And so here we are, Holy Spirit, available to you. Use our hands, our mouth, our nose, our ears, our bodies to be the shift that we are calling forth in our finances, in our relationships, in our manifestations of businesses, visions, healing, opening, opportunities. The more of our life that we are calling forth, help us to want what we have right now so that we can become a place of gratitude rather than desperation. So that we can come from a place of enough rather than not enough. So that we can come from the place of worthy and deserving rather than trying to prove that we're no longer unworthy. Holy Spirit, meet us at the place of fullness of our cup And that even if that requires for us to empty something out so that we can be filled with fresh waters, living emotions, living feelings, living, no longer stagnated, receiving from, that we get to be a source, a well, a pond to draw down into. I thank you, Holy Spirit, for the waters in the atmosphere of change. Thank you for the softness of water, but help us, Holy Spirit, to respect the depth of water and the quick movingness of the water element in our life. All of us that are fiery can stand a little water, and all of us that are earthy sometimes need to have our places irrigated, and air changes form from air to water, air to water. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for us being alchemical women, knowing, moving, and having our connection with something beyond the beyond, so that we can be the shift that we have been praying for, with courage, with consistency, with willingness, and with joy. I pray for the joy this morning to be in the change, in the choices, for the joy and the pleasure to be in the choice to be yes, of course. We thank you for the feminine and the masculine of our lives, for the masculine and the feminine of our ancestors, for the wisdom and also for the adventure. We thank you, Holy Spirit. Help us again to be available to that, even as we continue to shift everything effortless and under grace, sweetly, tenderly, and with mindfulness. I send these prayers forth, knowing that they will not return to me void, that they will accomplish that we've sent them forth to do, that our families will also be blessed by the shifts that we are making for ourselves, even if they can't see it. We'll see it and be their eyes for them. We let it be so, and so it is. I'll see you on the other side in Good Girls Gone Goddess. Make sure that you sent me your email if you're participating. And I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. See you on the other side, beloved. Ashe, thank you.
Love you.